I believe the time is 6 o'clock. We're going to bring the Montego Regional Planning Commission meeting to order. I'm going to do a roll call. It would be a vote. It's a roll call. Wouldn't it just be a roll call? All right, thank you. Richard Black.
Here.
Janet Millerschmidt. Ed Provo.
Here.
Doreen Parmley. Here. Peter Beasley. Here. Marilyn Robin. Here. And I'm Michelle Russell. Here. All right. Everyone had a chance to look at the previous meeting minutes. Any changes, additions, or deletions?
Move to accept.
Move to second. Need a second?
Sorry.
All those in favor? All right. Moving on. Staff and community reports. We don't have a staff approved plat report, but it is Earl's first up.
Oh,
Building
boy.
inspector.
There's a couple of things I'd like to bring up tonight. I received a call today from and this is something Anya needs to be aware of. I told him he's probably going to be calling you if he hasn't already. 83 Lane Avenue. Miss Doreen will bring her notes to it, I guess. Jerry McFall, he has, I reckon it's his mother, somebody has property back there. And he inquired about what he could do with property, and it's R3. Anyway, and the board here and the city board is in the process, if they haven't already, have made that where it can be single family residence, that word before it couldn't be. Anyway, long story short, he asked me about a structure with a mother-in-law suite in it. Now, we've never talked about this, and it's been here, and it's still coming. I advised him to get on the agenda and bring this to you guys at the next meeting. What your ordinance calls for any single family is one primary structure per lot, and it's supposed to be single family. Mother-in-law suite is an additional part of that structure, which is really a two-family type deal. And we'll talk about that later, but in other jurisdictions, the way I've done that is, if they want to do that, that's fine, as long as they have an inner door between the two, and they can't have two entrances, so it's still in single entry. But the mother-in-law suite part of that has to be part of the house. In other words, you gotta have a door to go into it, just like if they go into another room or a different room. That's why we've done it before, but I want y'all to be involved in that, making that decision for Montego, Tennessee.
So what you're saying is that the mother-in-law may not want, we want options for the mother-in-law suite.
Well, I can understand that. It's a common thing, it's been coming for years, and it's just now maybe coming into this area for some crazy reason.
So Earl, is this an addition to an existing structure?
No,
When you say it's connected, it's going to be a freestanding structure.
There's an existing trailer there now, my understanding is, and it's going away to build a new house.
But they want a separate structure for like a mother-in-law.
Well, he was talking about having a breezeway between two different structures, and in my opinion, that doesn't meet the code of what they call for, what I think is, you still have one entry to go in and out of, but they have their own privacy, but there's gotta be an intermediate door between the two different parts of the house. Part of it's mother-in-law's, part of it's theirs. There'll be two kitchens, two of everything. But that other part is just gonna be a separate, area for, somebody else to live in.
And that, you said that is becoming more prominent, or a question that you've encountered more?
I've seen it before in other jurisdictions, and the way I've done it before is, as long as they don't have two entrances and make it look like two different houses, that I think it'd be okay, in my opinion. But that's something y'all need to make that decision for the county Montego. And I think he's gonna be on the agenda. I gave him your number and told him to call you and get on the agenda for the next meeting.
Okay.
His name is Jerry McFall.
Do you have immediate thoughts on that? I think it's really related to what we've been talking about with R3, R4, and I have some ideas that I want to bring up with you guys.
Good.
And do a presentation for you guys in February. I would like so can you express your opinion, your qualms, or for or against, what are your worries?
Well, I personally feel that it's important that, I've cared for my father, my mother, grandmother, I mean, that's what we do, and I think it's important that you give them the dignity of a separate domicile, if you will. If it's not abused, right? There's always a choice or a chance of that being abused, but I definitely feel that that's an important part of our culture.
Why would it be abused? I mean, I'm just wondering what the negative would be.
You don't get to choose who they rent it out to. It could be a caretaker for an elderly member, or it could be rented out for passive income.
Rent, or just like when you get a duplex out of a single family residence in a heartbeat.
So that's
An Airbnb.
Yeah.
Or an Airbnb. I don't even know if that's a negative though. I don't
Right,
think that's
right.
Is there any
That's just
potential to
creating
split the lot? If they wanted to and go with two lots?
Probably wouldn't, the lot probably not big enough to
I
split
don't
it.
know the lot, but that's one option.
That was about 12,000 feet, And another question, what is that on city sewer up there? Anybody know? I don't really know.
I think so.
So he'd have to have septic tank and all that stuff.
But if it has that immediate door, would you have to have a separate septic tank?
No.
It would just be one.
Not my opinion.
Okay.
If you're rated for 3 bedrooms or whatever, that tank's gonna service that one, everything, in my opinion.
Well, as long as it's rated as a 3.
Yeah, state of Tennessee would
The
do
health
that.
department does that.
And I did tell him that, he said there's 2 septic tanks up there. Now, there's one on that existing trailer and another one, I said, well, that's fine, but you're still gonna have to have the state of Tennessee environmental come in and certify that one is okay to use for what you wanna do with it.
So he either wants to build the breezeway connecting the two structures, or he wants to have this as an accessory dwelling, is that correct?
Well, now what I told him was, I didn't like the idea of the breezeway thing. To me, that's two different places. You got one house, and part of that house is mother-in-law's part that the door goes to, and parts of it is everybody else's. In my opinion, that's still a single family residence.
They need to have a common
Well,
law.
what's the difference
Yeah.
between having it in a breezeway with 2 front doors across from each other and one that has a garage, mother-in-law suite? What is the difference?
Well, single family residence is really what that, in my opinion, but that's up to y'all. You make that decision. If that's what you wanna do, that's fine.
I think this is a
We're
very
gonna-
discussion, and we're gonna
Yeah.
look into it. I'm sure these structures already exist in Montego. I mean, I know
Oh, it
them
does,
because
cliff tops.
What time-
I lived in one.
So if you did like a 5 o'clock workshop, so we could talk about the R3, R4, and the definition of this, if we do that
I
next
think,
time.
I have,
Because we really gotta get that defined.
right, and I think, what we're discussing today with the agricultural thing is gonna be related as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
We need a big old workshop is what you're
Yeah.
saying. All right.
Yeah.
Sounds great. Any other questions you wanna give to Anya before she puts this together? Okay. Earl?
Okay. The other thing I wanna talk about tonight, I've had several calls on a piece of property that's in C2, down by the Dollar General store. And the lady is evidently wanting to buy that. And the questions come up, the survey shows the 75-foot, well, it's not really a setback, I guess it is a setback. And the amount, the survey, like I say, shows a 75-foot setback. But what people don't understand, and then what C2 is, what C2 calls for, is 30 feet on the front. But that's 30 feet from the right of way. And if you've got, let's just say you've got, in my opinion, you've got I don't know what, I'd like to find out what the right of way is going to, what state says the right of way is down there.
Well, we had to go back to their records or surveys, so we could call TDOT, or you could
Okay.
call TDOT and ask them if they have it.
Yeah.
Cause they're all different, down here is a lot different than up here, when we were getting the easements to put in these sidewalks and lighting, you know,
Okay.
then, but you can call the state and TDOT can access those for you.
Well, that was just a question about that, and, in my opinion, if that road's supposed to have a 90-foot right away, well, you go from center line, like 45 feet from center line, plus 30 feet from setback, that would be 75 feet. But I don't know that for a fact. That's what
The
really-
deed should speak to that, I mean,
I'm sorry?
the deed should speak to that.
Hey, Earl,
Yes,
when we negotiated with, Gunn to put the Mountain Goat Trail on there,
yes,
I believe we took an easement that started at the edge of right of way and we put the goat trail on the edge of right of way. So I think the road side of the trail is the edge of state right of way. I believe that.
okay.
But you can find that record, Nate, from where you had that, that's why I'm saying you can access it, we can be accurate instead of, even if we go back to where you had that
Well-
information.
Well, the survey that they're looking at was done before Mountain Goat Trail. It was just an old survey.
That's what it is.
And I don't really know, right there again, I just wanna bring that up, that we have interest in that property.
Well, all those properties along the corridor are gonna be, subject to this.
Exactly, we
So,
need, we need to determine that now, because there's 4 or 5 properties down there right next to each other, and,
You talking about the ones that Gene has there for sale,
Yes.
those lots, cause I think there's what, 4 or 5 of them, 6 that's.
So we're gonna have to have a uniform decision on it.
yeah,
We
we
can-
decide now,
You
and
can pull
it'll
this.
be clear for all of them.
Okay, all right, we'll add that. Got it? All right. Anything else, Earl?
Unless y'all have something for me, I'll be glad to let somebody else have the lecture.
Y'all have anything for
No,
Earl?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, do you wanna be here at the next meeting, Arlen, so we can do a workshop whenever she schedules it?
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
Now
probably be
this-
working with her on, to
Yeah,
set
so-
that all up.
We'd love to have you here, I know it's
Yeah.
Be glad to help.
taxing, but.
Okay.
We appreciate you, Earl. Alrighty, moving on to new business, agricultural uses within municipal limits, discussion.
All right, so, Garrett and I did some research because we have a property owner in Mount Eagle that is, he has a request for an agricultural use, but it doesn't currently fit within our regulations in Mount Eagle. And he wants to do a variety of land uses that have to do with agricultural, tourism. And he wants to be able to like have wedding events, and I think it would be a very positive thing for Mount Eagle. But there isn't anything that allows it. I think it's currently zoned, agricultural uses are currently only allowed in C1, C2, C3. It has nothing to do with this tourism event venue. And so Garrett and I put together, looking at other towns, some options for Mount Eagle to look at. And then we, as a planning team, have a suggestion of what we could research even further into for. Did you guys have time to look over the different options and the pros and cons that we made up? So, for example, one would be to amend your current agricultural use. But, it would be very narrow, and, I think there could be a better fit. Another one is to create a temporary use, amend that section in our zoning ordinance. Yet another is to establish an entirely new zoning ordinance, agricultural land use. But this, I think, could fall under spot zoning, because then we'd have to identify which zones would fit into that.
Is it truly gonna be an agricultural, or is it gonna be like exotic animals? or-
No, not exotic. He has cattle. He wants to have like a corn maze. He wants to be able to have a pumpkin patch. It wants to be adjusted to like seasonal uses.
Sort of like the
And
ground.
he wants to be, he lives in Tracy City now. He's been commuting to work for the past however long he's been, having this parcel land, and he would like to be able to have a single family dwelling, so he wouldn't have to commute anymore.
What did y'all come up with? I mean, did you have a preference?
Yeah, so then, fourth option is to create a whole new agricultural zoning district. Again, we could fall into spot zoning because we have to identify zones for that. And then the best one that we've come up with that Mount Eagle has never done before, is to create an agro-tourism overlay district. So this is, I created this one pager on the next page that talks about, the definition and some pros and cons to it. But the main point of an overlay district is that, it's a planning concept where you put the zoning district, you overlay it above the existing, zoning, so you don't change anything. And it's not, legally considered spot zoning. So you simply put new standards on top of an underlining zoning district, and then you can overwrite it. It can work with the underlying zoning district, and then if something changes in the future, all you have to do is remove that overlay district. You do not have to go through the process of rezoning the whole thing. So if things like this, I guess it really also depends if you see uses like this coming up more and more in Monteagle. Is this something that would be useful? This could also be related to like urban farms, if you imagine more native gardens, urban farms happening here. If you get the chance to look at this agenda online, I have a lot of links and sources reviewing overlay districts and exactly how they work, and then examples of existing agricultural and agritourism overlay districts in other towns. And you can, the benefit to it is you can completely tailor it to however you see fit. You can make it as restrictive or as open as possible. It's totally up to the community's desires. And yeah, there's a lot of flexibility. So you, instead of having to redraft the underlying zoning ordinance, you can just add an additional district on.
And that's your recommendation?
This is our recommendation, yes. So I don't, if you guys have had time to review it, Garrett and I would like to present maybe a sample overlay district for you to review at the February meeting. And we can work on it line by line and figure out how to best fit your needs. The reason I think this is also another reason I think this is great is because I think I'm going to, I think our team also wants to suggest something like this for your residential, your R4 zone. So instead of like rezoning R4 and identifying specific zones for it, we would have an overlay district so that you could pick and choose exactly where you could see tiny homes or maybe where you could see accessory dwellings that Earl was mentioning earlier. So you have more control as a community where you want to see those things.
And that when you're saying an overlay, to me that almost is too liberal. You know, it says to the point that it could be anywhere in town if a person so chooses to put it there.
You have to choose where.
I know, but
You
there
have
has
to
to be
approve
some definition, and also on this, on the agricultural farm or the tourism, are we talking about a certain size? Because what's to say Doreen and I are not neighbors, and I've got 5 acres, and I decide I wanna do this, but she doesn't want it beside of her house. You know, there's certain things that we're gonna have to have, I don't wanna regulate people to death, but we're gonna need some restrictions. I mean, you know, Dean may want giraffes out at, you know, the bluff, but his neighbors may not want them. You know what I'm saying? There's
I just don't want a mother-in-law.
Well, that's between you and Jackie. That's between you and Jackie. You know, I'm not going there. But you know what I'm saying? There's certain things that you'll take the giraffes, just not the mother-in-law.
I think the best part about this is that you can make it, you can tailor it to exactly what you want. So you can make it so that, you know, a parcel that wants to have agritourism has to be a certain size, maybe 40, 50 acres. I think this parcel that we're talking about is like almost 150.
As we approach this, we already have agricultural use in any of our commercial areas. We need something that popped up in the review of zoning. We need to look at putting agricultural and get it out of this commercial zoning that we have it in now.
Right.
Okay.
So all this will work together, so maybe you'll be at the workshop too, so.
I don't know.
Yeah. Rich will be at the workshop. So Dory will be at the workshop. But, yeah.
What can you, so that I'm ready, next month especially, so what are some other concerns or questions that you may have about overlay districts in terms of agricultural tourism or the residential piece? One of the thing you mentioned was that it's not restrictive enough, you're concerned about adjoining parcel owners.
May I make a recommendation?
Yes.
Instead of trying to pull this in February, could we communicate and get the information that you have, I've not seen anything.
Okay.
Let us absorb it a little bit, maybe push it back a month so we're
Sure,
a little more prepared to do it right.
yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you.
And so we can be in communication for next month. If questions arise when you do review the material, you can just email me or call me, and me and Garrett can take a phone call and just answer all your questions.
So do you think maybe we need to schedule a workshop between those 2 months and not do it in a meeting, because it might go longer than an hour? Because this is going to.
Yeah, I wanna schedule it for next month, like an hour and a half, and give us some time, because, and I don't think we should cover both topics. I think we should just cover residential, like the tiny homes piece, or the agritourism.
All right, I got a quick question with the agritourism. Are they on a time crunch?
He says he would like to have it done this spring, but it doesn't seem like there is an immediate deadline.
Well, I mean, what would be the time crunch? You can't
Getting
do
in
it.
business?
Yeah, but you can't just let somebody randomly do something that's not right.
I'm not saying that is the case, but you also want to work with someone who owns the land. You want to work with them.
I know, but
So alls I'm asking is where he is at.
he hasn't been to the meeting yet.
He's here.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, yeah, he's here.
Okay, well, I didn't see you back there. Do you want, hello, where are you? Oh, okay.
Where are you at with time frame? I mean, we're wanting to work with you. I think we are all in agreement that this is a great thing.
We have a lot of capital investment at this point, so we're kind of tied. We just can't go forward at this point until there's a decision. I don't know if there is a way to like continue further, like getting some type of
Look,
temporary
town-
permit.
Town can't stop him from planting a corn maze.
No, or a pumpkin patch. I think, I mean.
So like, we're at the point where we're ready for drywall, electrical, and plumbing, but
For your home or for the business?
for the business, we haven't done anything on that one.
Girls. Okay.
Several months ago, they pulled a building permit for a pole barn.
Yeah.
Which is agricultural use.
Right.
And now we're talking about drywall and plumbing. See, that's a problem.
Yeah, when I came last time, I said that the
That's
contractors
the
told me.
issue. He cannot continue
Yeah,
with what he wants to do until the decision is made of what he can do, in other words.
Right.
I can't go down there and, right now, as far as I'm concerned, the permit was pulled for a simple pole barn to be used in agricultural use. And, what he's talking about with sheet rock and plumbing, that doesn't fit that description.
So when did you actually present this? Because I know I was told it was a pole
I-
barn and a playground.
I had the I had the contract, I hired somebody else to handle it, and I gave them the plans and everything. And then, came to find out that the correct permits were not pulled.
Okay, so we didn't know everybody was behind the eight ball on that one.
So, I came, 2 months ago,
Yeah, and I think
will apologize.
October or November.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're trying to figure out, this. as
I'm
you-
at your mercy, so there's nothing.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I feel you.
do.
So back to Ed's question about pushing it, it's, heck yeah, let's make sure we do it right. But we also want to keep in mind, the capital and the needs. If we don't, we want to see it move forward, so we want to do it in a timely basis.
Okay, so what are we moving forward? He's talking about business, and we're also talking about a residential house. So we're talking about a whole lot of things. We're encompassing this. So.
We haven't done anything on the house.
Well, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to figure out what it is now in definition, because we've got a lot of variables moving around.
Just the business.
Okay. Pardon?
Just the business. We haven't done anything on the house.
We could, and that's something you can tailor, is having this overlay district, over this parcel of land. You can tailor it so that you allow single family, and then you allow like a venue, the pool fund. That would work with Earl to make sure that that's all worked out.
So the drywall, is that for the venue aspect of it?
Yeah, we haven't done anything on the house.
Okay, and for the agri-tourism business and the corn maze?
That's all the venue. That's like,
Okay, all right. Same place over there, or is it over by the barn?
it's by the barn that I showed you.
Okay.
Well, let me ask where we are with the agricultural pole barn that was originally pulled, permitted.
I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Sorry.
Does it have a meter base and plumbing to it?
We had it's not tied into the electrical, but They did run poles out, but we stopped at that point.
And do you have a septic system in the bathroom?
We can't put in a septic system because we have access to the sewer, so there's gonna need to be a pump station and tie into the sewage system. We were denied a permit for septic.
You don't need a septic for a pole barn for cattle.
No.
It won't
That's-
pass.
And you don't
It's a
need.
structure,
yeah.
it's gonna be occupied, it sounds like.
But we're moving forward with an event venue. Right, so it's not a pole barn.
So then we need to revisit that with Earl and
Yeah.
revisit the whole thing because it sort of went from a pole barn to a facility.
Well, entrepreneurs get creative, don't they, Matt? Alright. Suggestions, Anya?
I think Garrett and I need to discuss with Earl and, Matt, what can be done in the next few months, and then what can we be presented to you guys to look over. I think this is gonna be a few months of process.
Okay.
To really flesh out exactly what you guys wanna allow and.
I mean, everything I've heard is so vague. I mean, what
Yeah.
is
No,
the
we
final
don't know.
picture
Well,
supposed to
there's
look
nothing,
like?
Yeah, we don't know.
so this is supposed to be an educational piece. I haven't written anything, I haven't drafted any overlay districts. I think the first step is for you guys to review the pages that I've sent and, read the links. I think that will give you a good background on what, has been accomplished in other towns, and then you can see exactly what you wanna pick and choose for Montego.
Sure, and to help Matt, how do we, and we're gonna move forward with that, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Well, everything I'm seeing on agricultural excludes 90% of what we're talking about doing. Livestock, and that kind of stuff, so I think, I mean, here again, I think until we really know what the final picture is supposed to look like, I don't know how we can even talk.
Are you talking about, the final
Matt's,
picture
yes.
for Matt's property?
That
Do you wanna
specific project.
explain what maybe I didn't do a very good job.
Is there a plan? I
giving
mean,
a-
is
Yeah,
I'd
there-
like to see a plan.
Is there a site plan? I mean, Matt, do you have, like you have drawings and a site plan for a business? So has any of that been presented?
Yeah, I don't,
Cause I mean, we just can't go on our imagination. So-
I could email someone all the information.
I've used it.
Otherwise, we're gonna be piecemealing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't wanna piecemeal it.
Yeah,
But,
All right.
should I email the stuff too?
You can email me.
Okay.
And I can send it out.
is it Earl needs,
Yes.
Earl doesn't even have it.
So Earl and Anya and Matt need to work on this so that we can make some decisions, Matt, is that good?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Let me make sure here
Yes.
now, that, I can remember way back when that was first, decided to be able to use for cattle in a C2 zone. And, I can't remember how we did that. Right now, is it still C2? Is it still commercial? zone?
Yes,
Or is it-
right?
But I think what they did, they were, like what the planning commission did, they left it at C2, but they gave C2 to be used for agricultural use.
It is an agricultural
And that's what
use.
happened, that's what happened.
Right.
So we still got C2, which typically doesn't have single family residents.
No.
Uh,
But agricultural uses, to clarify, is in all commercial districts right now in Montego.
Yes,
You can
it
have
is.
agricultural districts in 1, 2, and 3.
yeah, well, that was done, years ago.
Nate, didn't you say something, didn't we add livestock to that? Wasn't there something that you did, this is pre-us, but,
So initially, to help Matt with the cows, I think the prior commission allowed for agriculture, but didn't realize that the definition of agriculture in the zoning ordinance was row crops and precluded animals. And so when we got elected, one of the first things we did was added animal husbandry to the permitted uses in those commercial districts.
okay.
Typically agriculture was chickens and gardens and things like that, it doesn't include cattle.
Yeah, so that's consistent. Our zoning ordinance, agriculture does not include any animal husbandry. And so animal husbandry, we added separately to the C2.
Wasn't the gun farm always cows?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's beside the point.
Okay.
You can't,
Alright, hey, whatever,
Yeah.
alright. Okay, so that's a history. Okay. Yeah, agricultural and commercial is an interesting concept.
So another permit will have to be pulled to actually build a venue instead of pub barn now, it goes into that place, right?
Well,
Cause
it
we're
could
going,
be, and then you're probably gonna have to approve a site plan for that.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, so you've got to have a site plan, landscaping, the whole 9 yards,
Yep.
so you can't just put it out there and say it's gonna work even with a venue, I mean.
Yeah, but nothing's been built, right? There's been no, I mean.
I said he was ready for it, bro.
I haven't been
But
called back,
that's,
I
that
haven't
is permitted.
looked at the fourth concrete report and saw the holes, but outside of that, I've not been called back out there.
So that's allowable in C2 though, right? And an event venue,
And the event venue hasn't been built yet, so that's not a concern yet.
okay,
That's not our worry.
okay.
All we have to worry about is, well, if we wanna work with the property owner, then it'd be great to hear what his plans are so that we can, figure out, adapt what we want to see in Montego versus maybe what we don't want.
Bingo, okay.
But Gary and I have had conversations with Matt, and I'm pretty sure I remember him explaining his idea for agritourism business at the meeting in October, November. I know it's been a while, but since then I've had conversations with him when he's explained the business.
Okay.
So maybe it would be good for him to explain it to the planning commission so that it's fresh on our minds, so when we move forward, we know what we're working with.
Okay, Matt, you wanna do a quick synopsis of what you wanna do, just so that we have it in our heads? Hey, you just come on up for the pretty camera, yeah. And then
Thank
all
you,
of us.
Matt.
Thanks, Anya.
I'm not prepped for this, but.
That's okay, you're always on, come on.
So, inside the pole barn, there is going to be, if you can imagine, the playhouses at McDonald's, but a much bigger version of that on the inside. About 65% of the 40x80 building will be that equipment. And then there are gonna be bathrooms on one side. Have you guys ever been to like a discovery museum for little kids? Where like, there's like pretend farmer's market, pretend, veterinary thing where they can treat stuffed animals and that kind of stuff. That's on the inside. On the outside, there's a bunch, what we call a natural playscape using rocks and logs that are already existing there for kids to be outside and playing, trails through some of the woods for them to hike on. We wanna be able to bring in a field trip once a week during the school year to get kids out in the barn, do a little hay ride, see the animals, be able to play on the equipment. I know people have mentioned wedding events. We're not planning that currently. That's something that can be added down the road if allowed, but that's not something that we have in, I think it was mentioned early on when we were first thinking about buying the property or something that we might do, but we're not currently planning on doing the weddings. We wanna be able to sell meat products, be able to raise pigs, goats, chickens, chickens for meat and eggs, ducks, Thanksgiving turkeys. We'd like to be able to sell, we have a meat permit in Tennessee to sell that product at farmers markets and from the barn, so we'd like to be able to have an actual place people would stop that looks decent to sell that product.
Do you still want that seasonal piece that we talked about? Is that something?
Like
that-
doing, yeah, seasonal things that we'll do, like, have you ever seen the Christmas lights that blink during music? Or we would have like a walking tour through some of the woods and 50 cents of music and Christmas lights, so that's something that's like down the road. We have a Thanksgiving themed event, Easter themed events, just to bring people in, but for the most part we'll probably take January and February off. It's not great money, not a great time to have people on the farm, but we'll be open the rest of the year.
And you said animals, so are we talking, are y'all gonna have little horses and pigs and cows and, I know you got cows and chickens and, I mean, what kind of animals are, we gonna have everything there?
In Tracy City, we have pigs and lamb hens and goats. On this farm, we use our meat birds, which are only around, the chickens are only around for 8 weeks, and then the cattle are there. We'll probably, we've been looking at the state regulations on having to use, we do what's called rotational grazing, which is a little different than just letting your animals out. So if you ever see the red cows behind Dollar General, they're there for like a day and then they move to another section for a day. So the petting zoo would be set up on a rotational basis, because for agritourism, a certain percentage of what you do has to be educational. So we explain how our grazing practices work, and the kids would be able to like see the few animals that we have there. But those would be like, if we had a bottle-fed goat that didn't attach to mom, that would be part of the petting zoo. It wouldn't be a large, it would be like a handful of animals, and more like 8 or 10 in the petting zoo.
Questions?
That sounds like a great idea. I think it'd be good for our community. But you're talking about public bathrooms and access and parking and probably, disability access. And these things really need to have a site plan that we could look at and figure out the best way forward for you on how we zone this, or how we ask you to ask for a zoning variance so we can move this ahead for you. Okay? You agree?
I completely agree.
Yeah, it does sound exciting, what you.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool as all get it. I think that fits us. It's just, we gotta figure out the process to get you there.
I think it could be a wonderful thing. I
Yeah.
think, but, you know, this committee, in my opinion, needs to have something on paper
Yeah, we
that
can't.
we can look at and say, here's what it's gonna look like. Need a floor plan of the inside and what the outside's gonna be, and there'll have to be a professionally done site plan prepared by Tennessee licensed surveyor.
Yep.
And, I'll let this body look at it.
How about farmer's market? Thing or two? Cause we've been trying to get a farmer's market back for a long time. I know the assembly has one, but just something to think about. We all have one during the summer with produce or flowers, or, you know, and I'm not thinking about the New Orleans ones or some things, but would y'all have some type of farmer's market there?
Good question.
Alright, well, you can think about it and let us know.
Hey,
If you don't
did
mind.
you get that right away, from the main yet? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Matt, we
Thank you.
appreciate it. Property is, behind the C2 corridor.
It's, by the sewer plant. They access it by the dollar store. You got access by the General Dollar, by the Dollar General, and then, by the sewer plant too,
We
right?
typically go in where the liquor store is,
The
Yeah.
liquor store.
and then back.
Back through there. I know there's several ways that you can get back there.
Between Country Mart and Dollar Stores, basically, that's property.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old gun farm.
It's like planning on snow.
That, yes, sir, that is that's why you are here, Ed, is because that pretty brain of yours. All right.
I have anywhere else to go with that.
All right, Anya, do we have anything else?
No, and I don't think that this requires any motion either.
Nope, it's just moving it along. All right, very good. Cooley's Rift.
This,
Mr. Henning?
yeah.
Yeah.
go ahead. You wanna talk about this spot?
Yeah, we'll try to get something out here.
Okay.
Good evening, I'm Mike Henning, I'm an owner in Cooley's Rift, along with my wife Pam. We have some other owners here tonight. Trying to think how to start this thing and bring you up to speed quick, but, the developers that own Cooley's Rift, they, have 350 acre tract of land that is their last parcel of land, that they put on the MLS, early of 21. And, they advertised it for hunting, timbering, things that we as owners obviously didn't want. And so, one of our owners, Eric Young, who lives in Cooley's, he got together with a group and we started exploring our options. And in June, we came together with 38 owners and started talking to the developer. And made an offer, it was denied, made a second offer, denied. Finally, we paid full price in August. And the first closing was scheduled November 1st, and it didn't happen. Then December 1st, and it didn't happen. And then December 8th was our third closing date. All the funds had been wired to Tennessee Title, and the the afternoon of the 8th, the seller's attorney, I guess Anya, they got with you or Garrett maybe, unbeknownst to us, and brought up the subdivision issue. And so, and the whole time we were buying this tract of land, we were just doing it to preserve the land. We didn't want to do anything development wise, just protect the land. And so, we were obviously quite surprised. And, so really the purpose then when we got with Dean and said, you know, what's our options? You got any guidance? And, that's kind of why we're here tonight, is because we're a little bit stumped on what we need to do as owners to literally take the 350 acres underneath us and just protect it. We want to leave it forever wild. We don't want to do anything to it. And we thought at the time it was going to be simple to do, but we're kind of at a roadblock. And like I said, all the monies are in escrow. The sellers are motivated to sell. We're motivated to buy and protect, and kind of looking for some guidance.
What's the holdup?
Yeah, what is the issue
So I
that's
think there's
stopping
been
us?
a lot of miscommunication in the last month. Cause I think Garrett originally had Fluid's plat reviewed. And who sent the preliminary plat last month?
Big survey.
And the property owners were all involved with paying for that to be done, is that
Yes.
correct? Okay. So, according to the subdivision regulations, when we reviewed it, I guess do you know why it got tabled or denied last month? Do you remember? I don't.
No,
It wasn't here last month. Dean actually, we were visiting a couple weeks before Christmas.
Okay, I got
And
denied.
he was visiting a couple weeks before Christmas in the office, and he brought it to my attention, and we sent it to you and Garrett,
Okay,
like 2 weeks before Christmas. Now, that's the first I'd seen it, and I spoke with you later and said that we would be addressing
yes,
this.
so I think right before the holidays, is
So
when
it
we reached
wasn't
out
denied.
and we had, it was just, so there's two issues with the preliminary plat. One is that the access easement that is like the, marked as the green and yellow roads, they have to be built to construction standards, which I don't think it will be possible on that lot. So the other option that we came up with was that you subdivide that land out to the property owners and you clearly label on the plat which, property owner is getting which parcel, so that there's going to be an easement via y'all's property. Does that make sense? And then there was something else, I think because of the size of the project.
Patel, you said that Patel was landlocked.
Oh, and
You told
Patel
us-
was landlocked
Yeah,
as
you
well.
couldn't
Yeah.
landlock him. Y'all talked about that earlier. weren't you?
Yeah, the only large tract buyer is Patel that would be contiguous with his own land.
Right, we need to find something to make that work.
Yeah, and that's a possibility that we can. I guess where we're a little bit on the outside looking in is we haven't been involved in any of these discussions,
Right.
nor our broker.
Right, so now.
So the seller
moving
is done a
forward.
complete end around, and we're sitting here tonight going, what do you need us to do, what do you want us to do? Because we wanna buy those 350 acres, protect our investments, protect our development, leave it forever wild. It's just basically for hiking.
Yeah,
Two things that literally in 9 months of discussion that were never mentioned by anyone, not on the seller side, not on the buyer side, was the word subdivision or the words planning commission. Because ever, not once. And that was because we thought we're just buying and protecting. Pretty simple.
right,
And now it's,
I know.
Yeah.
Mr.
Well-
Henning, are you working with the Woodland Group? Is that who you work with on this?
Woodland Capital is
Yeah.
they're the operational.
Right.
And then the VC guys are out of Denver.
And I apologize, I still don't know what is holding this up. It's stopping the actual closing. What is doing that?
That's, there again, we need to know the same thing, because on December 8th, like I said, that was our third scheduled closing. It was the afternoon of the 8th.
Right.
And we were ready for it to be completed, and all of a sudden our broker says the seller's attorneys
have went to the Monteagle Planning Commission and are bringing up subdivision issues. And we said, subdivision, it's not gonna be a subdivision. But we've never been privy to any
Well, see,
information.
we were not either, this did not happen to y'all till December, and then when Dean came to me, that's the first I was aware of it, it'd never been before the planning commission.
Right. It
As
has-
we spoke, your seller went to our planners.
Right.
And then that happened in early December, it never came before the planning commission. Dean came to me, we sent it back to them, and we're trying to fix it for you guys, so you can buy the right way, and you don't have issues later, like some of the other things that happened. So we're on your side.
Yeah,
We
no,
just
I
need
agree.
We need to fix these things here, so we can move forward thinking buy.
And,
'Cause
and I think the seller is still very motivated to consummate the sale. I mean, they extended the purchase agreement again until the end of January, so that's the 4th extension now that we're into. They wouldn't keep extending it if they weren't motivated to close the deal with us. They know we're motivated because our funds are sitting there in escrow. It's kind of, we're in the red zone on this thing. And so, you know, it almost seems like, is there a reason the sellers are doing something? I don't think they are. I think they maybe were just doing their due diligence somehow, and now we're going.
They're unaware, I don't know, because our last meeting was on December 7th. So,
Right.
we had been in communication, or Garrett has been, because it was on our agenda, but
See,
then.
we didn't
no
know
one
any of
showed
this.
up. So, I think it's just,
Yeah, cause
and
it's
then
on our
once-
agenda last month,
But nobody had any
no one showed up.
information,
Yeah.
really, nobody had anything.
Nobody
submitted.
on the buying side had any.
And see,
We thought the
didn't
next
have
day.
anything, because Dean's the one who brought it to my attention, then we sent the information to you guys.
Right.
So, it's just sort of the holidays at us, but how can we fix this to where they can move forward?
Here's what we talked about before the meeting, I think that you should work with me and the other county staff directly, so that we can fix the issues to make sure they fit with the subdivision regulations.
So,
Cause I think you have most of it already done, we just have to make sure that it's following up and everything.
right, and
The
I mean,
name-
that's where our broker told me today that Chris Vick had sent the final plat in to the planning commission.
I think it has to go through a preliminary plat, I think that's what I'm trying to remember what I wrote on my notes before, but I
Right.
think it has to go because of the size or something, there's something restrictive about this. That it has to have a prelim plat and then we can do the final plat.
Just for clarity, who stopped the closing? I hadn't heard that answer to that question yet.
I would say the sellers being their attorney.
But you said it was based on the planning commission because.
Like I said.
This has never come in front of, this is the first I've heard of it.
Well, the phrase that our broker used to us as buyers was that the seller's attorney this afternoon raised some, issues that they presented to the Monteagle Planning Commission, was the term that our broker used, which may not be correct. And
Spoken to Garrett,
it must have been Garrett.
maybe.
And,
yeah.
but like I said, we had no, cause we were sitting there going, we thought that was the afternoon we were finally gonna hit the finish line and be done with it, cause it's been a struggle.
I don't even know why this would be a planning commission issue.
To me either, that's what
It's not a planning commission issue.
I think
don't
their
even know why we're
attorney,
listening to
here,
it.
the attorney said it was a subdivision, so certain rules had to be followed. Now, this is what we're getting out of it. So if Monteagle does due diligence in the purchase, they can go forward. Now, I'm not an attorney and I'm not a buyer or a seller, but that's the way it's been explained to us.
But the original subdivision was already approved, so I don't understand why one.
But
buyer-
it's separate.
One
It's-
buyer
No,
couldn't buy
it's
from
two,
another.
I think it's two different
It's two different
sections.
ones.
It's two different.
Yeah, it's
places.
not part of,
No.
it's under our bluff escarpment, it's
the
350
escarpment,
acres.
It's rugged terrain between the interstate and
It's
the
not
top
part
of
of
the
the
You're buying land,
subdivision.
you're not buying, I mean.
Just raw land, and leaving it raw land.
So who,
Dean,
once again,
Greg
who
Maloof.
stopped?
I mean, there's no, we had no
Down there.
control over it.
Dean?
As Greg Maloof would say, point of information, I came to the mayor to assist these folks, not I mean, it could be construed that I came and reported them
no.
subdividing property, that's not the case. I came to offer insight to the mayor about the potential of coming up I-24 eastbound and seeing all that mountainside clear cut of timber, harvesting of rock, and destroying that landscape for the next 50 years. But I think probably what he says on the seller's due diligence is correct. There is a regional planning commission, and you have regional jurisdiction down to a certain elevation there. I'm assuming that portion is outside the city limits?
Yes.
And it would appear to me that one option you would have would be to withdraw regional status from that area. We went back, it's probably in the 90s or late 90s, we got regional, we had to go before the county commission and get permission from the county to take that territory outside the city limits and define that with a map, and that was done. And it went down to some point of elevation. The farmers in the valley didn't want us coming down to the bottom, so we stopped at, just say, 1,400 feet or whatever it is. And I would assume that there's a process where if it's quicker to do this, because somebody could buy that property tomorrow, well, if you've got a contract through January, or in January.
We have a purchase agreement till
But I talked to a guy today that had made an offer on it.
Right, it's, time is.
Yeah, but potentially you could just withdraw your jurisdiction over that tract of property. And then, it's not an issue, because it's no different than going out, England Road somewhere, that you don't have jurisdiction on. There's a defined area that you have regional status on.
Anya?
I would have to look into this more before.
It would take longer to do what she's saying we need to do.
Okay, but whatever it is, end of January is really our drop dead deadline, is what you're saying.
Well, that's our purchase agreement extension date. Now, if so far I feel, although the negotiations have been clumsy and stumbled along, I think both sides are acting in good faith, and that could continue. But like Dean says, these guys are timbering guys. They are very connected in the southeast and the southwest to timbering. And they can put players on this land that can buy it. And that would be devastating for us as owners, because the only ingress into this raw land is through Cooley's Rift.
Right.
There's no other way in there. It's that raw.
But your HOA owns that place now. It's not
No.
still,
Not
they
yet.
still own Cooley's Rift.
That's,
don't they?
and that's the whole
Yeah,
tie in
that's
here.
what's-
There's a leverage point that's going
Exactly.
on, and that's why these discussions that popped up on
Right.
December 8th, you're starting to feel what I'm trying, there's things going on subliminally and below the surface that factor in. And we need to know how to cut to the chase.
So let's work directly, maybe we can even talk tomorrow and make sure we know exactly what needs to be done, so this passes legally, with the subdivision regulations. And, our next planning commission meeting is February 1st.
But you could schedule a
A special
special
call.
meeting if it's done tonight, as long as it's 14 days out, the any meeting, if it takes that.
And so that's another option for us to beat the January 31st.
Yeah, we get it in the papers.
Like I said, we have a broker involved, the seller has a broker involved. It's a very structured deal as far as the principles. The wild card was the seller's attorneys, and that's what kind of surprised us, and we don't know where all that kind of started at.
For me, I need to work with who's, done this plat.
That's
And-
Chris
and-
Big.
Okay, I need to talk to you and him and make sure he knows what updates need to be had, so that we can move forward. And that we can.
And so there, the problem is, I have no relationship with Chris Vick.
Okay,
Vic Surveying does Woodland Capital surveying in Tennessee. Woodland Capital also does a lot of business in North Georgia, which Vic does not do. So when we were gonna get this land surveyed from a 350 acre single tract into 9 plats for 9 individual buyers, the pricing, Woodland Capital said, let's use our guy Vic, because they'll be more competitive. They already have a lot of control points established in Cooley's. It'll just be a much more competitive situation price-wise.
so who's the representative for Woodland Capital?
Okay,
The seller is Irvin Moore.
So the seller put together this preliminary plat. Is that right?
No, our broker, Emily Stefani, who's with Panther Creek Forestry. And like I said, I'll get you all those.
Yeah,
I can do that tonight.
okay,
all right, let's schedule a
I can
meeting.
catch you up quick.
Let-
that'd be great.
let's schedule a meeting and, so that we can get this done before the end of the month. So what date?
Mike, our next closing date?
Scheduled is January 31st.
Okay.
Can you be here? When can you be here?
Let me check.
And that could be part of what we do, is we say, we're working with everybody involved, we're gonna create the answer, and we need to change that extension from January 31st to February 20th, or we can, talk. Like I said, so far, the sellers have been motivated to sell. I don't think they're trying to back out and peddle this to a different buyer, but that's an unknown that we don't know.
I don't think that unknown is something that you wanna play with. I would prefer to get
Yeah.
that done before the end of January.
I mean, like I told the mayor, we've got 50 homes in Cooley's Rift right now, we got $30 million worth of property. We do not need a timbering company coming through our road across a Category 1 dam, of which we're your secondary water source. There's a lot of devastation that can happen if they sell this thing to a timbering company.
You're preaching to the choir, brother. All right, so Nate?
Yeah, I have a question for Anya. Is there any penalty for them for closing without an approved plat beyond them not being able to build on those lots?
The attorney won't do it. The attorney's the one that's talked this thing. That's how,
So they,
I don't think they're gonna make the order with the sale until this is resolved, I think. Is that what, Dean, is that sort of, that's, I mean, he was
that's
just
what-
trying
yeah,
to
the
help.
seller
That's what they
is
said, so
doing-
we've
yeah.
gotta resolve this issue so it's a clean sale.
But you had a 200-acre tract that they owned, correct me if I'm
Yes.
wrong, right, be east of it, that joins that tract, that comes up and joins the interstate and the gun farm.
Yes.
That they previously sold without coming before the planning commission.
That,
And no action was taken, and it's my understanding that they conveyed it by warranty deed, but that deed has never been recorded, or that's a few
How
weeks
did they
ago.
break that into lots? Did they even?
No, I don't think they're doing that.
It's a
It
single
could be-
buyer.
It's a single buyer, as
Yeah.
long as any two
That
or
could be
more,
a timber per person.
2 or more subdivision is
That's
where
all
we
planned
come
for
in, is that correct, Anya?
And roads.
So if it's sold in one parcel, we would not
Real
be
estate.
involved,
Yeah.
right, Dean? That's what that, so if they sold in one parcel,
Yeah,
we don't get
yeah,
involved.
It could be considered a minor subdivision.
Right.
Even. if
No,
one
it's
parcel.
2, it's 2.
Well, they got 38, or, no, you got how many buyers?
38.
Yeah.
So
But
that's,
even on the previous 200 acres, it should have been a minor subdivision.
as long as you don't subdivide, you have one hole, it doesn't come before us.
Yeah.
But if it's
Well,
more
staff
than,
approval.
if it's more than 2, then we have to be involved.
But it used to be, if
How did the term subdivision get involved?
subdividing property, not a subdivision where there's houses
Right,
and
there's no
subdividing
access to water,
property.
no sewer, it's escarpment, it's next to the
Right,
interstate.
but there's no exception for that because just like used to, if you were over 5 acres, you were exempt from that years ago
Right.
when we first started. So they went out here, on the bluff lines, out here past Bill McFarland's, and they sold 5.1 acres.
Right.
And they didn't have road, they didn't have water, they
Right.
didn't have electricity. You drive out there today, it's not a county road, there's no electricity, there's no water. And there's people out there that they're just living in campers and, it's a nightmare. And you got a lot of bluff property out there. But, I mean,
So
it is what it is.
that was the purpose of my question. So according to Tennessee code, the definition of a subdivision is for development. And so I'm wondering if they're not interested in developing it, if they can put in their deeds that there will be no development and no residential structures on it, can this board say, hey, we don't need to be involved, it's not a
I
subdivision?
don't think that's the case. I don't think it has to be developed in order for it to
No.
be.
And Nate, to address that, we came up with, and I gave Anya the restrictive covenants that are very defining to protect that exact position of a forever wild preservation, and they're gonna be, recorded with each deed at the closing. We thought, that was gonna be very thorough, we had an
Right.
attorney draft it.
The first time I saw that was when it was sent to me by Debbie on December 30th, and I was off that day.
And see,
so-
that's the problem too. How could these sellers' attorneys go to Garrett with this conversation on December 8th, the day of closing, and they did not even have our restrictive covenants? They had no idea what
Right.
we as buyers were,
Yeah.
our purpose
sorry,
was.
But I think we're gonna be able to move forward, and I think there needs to be more communication with, between, not just the seller, but between you
The key is Anya and making sure that she knows everything, okay?
And then,
Yeah.
that,
And-
on
So-
the 18th, can you be here? We've got to schedule it out to make sure it's up to.
I don't know, I wrote down that I could, so 18th,
It's a Tuesday,
I can't do that one.
okay?
So when can you be here?